I was sitting in a doctor's waiting room when my phone rang. It was my only daughter, Angela. Her voice sounded distant, almost cold. "Mom, we're leaving for Europe tomorrow," she said. "I sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye." And just like that, she hung up. 45 years of raising her. A lifetime of sacrifice. And in one sentence I was erased. But instead of crying, I took a deep breath and smiled. Because there was something my daughter didn't know. My name is Antonia Brooks. I'm 71 years old. And until that moment, I thought I knew my daughter. I had lost my husband, Robert, 6 months earlier. He died suddenly from a heart attack while we were having breakfast, just like we had every morning for 45 years. That day, he poured my coffee, buttered the toast, kissed my forehead and said, "Good morning, my love." Those were his last words. After his death, Angela seemed closer. She visited several times a week. She helped with the funeral, went grocery shopping with me, and even suggested I see a doctor. "You need to take better care of yourself now that you're alone," she'd say, smiling. I thought it was love. Now I realize it was convenience. The beach house she sold had been our refuge. Robert and I bought it when Angela was 15, after years of hard work. Summers, birthdays, holidays. We built our memories there. Angela brought boyfriends, then her husband, Edward. I cooked, cleaned, and welcomed everyone. I never imagined she'd see it as nothing more than cash. And the car? Robert's old Ford pickup. He treated it like family. Washed it every Sunday. Parked it under the same tree. It still smelled like him. That truck was the last piece of Robert I had left. When Angela ended the call, I stayed seated on that hard green chair, surrounded by strangers. And for the first time in months, I didn't cry. Instead, I felt calm. Because something came back to me, something I had forgotten. 3 days before Robert died, he handed me a large envelope. "Antonia," he said, "put this in your dresser drawer. If something happens to me, open it later, only when you're ready." I had stored it away. After the funeral, with all the grief and chaos, it slipped my mind. But now, I remembered. The nurse called me in. The doctor said I was healthy for my age, just needed more rest and better meals. I nodded, but my thoughts were far away. On the bus ride home, since apparently I no longer had a car, I couldn't stop smiling. Angela believed she had taken everything from me. What she didn't know was that Robert had always planned ahead. When I reached home, I went straight to the bedroom. I opened the dresser drawer. The envelope was still there. My hand shook as I held it. Robert's handwriting was on the front, steady and familiar. I sat on the bed we had shared for decades and opened it slowly. Inside were documents. Many of them. Deeds, bank records, and a handwritten letter. I recognized his words instantly. "My dear Antonia, if you're reading this, I'm no longer with you. Forgive me for not telling you everything. I wanted to protect you. Over the years, I invested our savings carefully. We don't only own the beach house, we own 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Angela and Edward live. We also hold shares in 3 companies worth far more than you imagine. You are wealthy, my love. You always were. Now it's official." I could barely breathe. There were property deeds from across the city, a downtown condo, a small seaside motel, and yes, the apartment building where my daughter lived. Robert hadn't just been thoughtful, he had been prepared. Robert had been the silent owner of everything for the past 10 years, but he had done it through a company I had never heard of. According to the papers, I was the sole owner of that company. There were also bank statements for accounts I didn't even know existed, with numbers that seemed unreal. Robert had been a bus driver for 40 years, but it turned out he was also a brilliant investor. Every penny we saved, every small sacrifice we made. He had quietly multiplied it, and I had no idea. In his letter, Robert explained why he'd kept it secret. He didn't want me to worry about money, and he didn't want Angela to know the truth about our financial situation. "You know our daughter, Antonia," he had written. "If she knew we had this much, her attitude would change. I want her to love us for who we are, not for what we have." The irony hit me hard. Angela had tried to strip us of everything, thinking we had nothing. Meanwhile, we had everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered through the house, touching the old furniture and little keepsakes Angela had always mocked as outdated. I stared at family photos on the wall, especially the one where she was 5, sitting on Robert's lap, laughing. Where had that sweet little girl gone? When did she become so cold and calculating? The next morning, the phone rang. It was Angela again. Her voice sounded softer this time, almost polite, but I had learned to be cautious of those sudden shifts. "Mom, how are you?" she asked. "I wanted to tell you we transferred the money from the house and the car. We deposited your share into your account. It's not much, but it should cover a few months while you look for something smaller." "My share?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Yes, Mom. We obviously weren't going to leave you completely empty-handed." "Suitcases." She had a sleek, expensive-looking carry-on. They laughed, kissed, and made plans as if nothing had happened. Not once did they glance toward my window. Not once did they say goodbye. I sat down at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, Robert's documents spread out before me. I had decisions to make. I could call a lawyer and attempt to reclaim everything through the courts. But something deep inside told me there was a better way, a smarter way. I picked up the phone and called Mr. Peterson, Robert's trusted lawyer. He had attended the funeral, offered his condolences, and assured me I could reach out if I ever needed anything. Now, I did. "Mrs. Brooks, it's good to hear from you. How are you?" "I'm well, Mr. Peterson. But I've discovered some documents from Robert and I don't fully understand them. I need your guidance." "Of course. Come by the office tomorrow morning and we'll go through everything." That night, for the first time in months, I slept deeply. I dreamed of Robert, sitting in his favorite chair reading the newspaper. When he saw me, he smiled warmly. "It's about time, my love. Time you stood up for yourself." I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. For the first time since his death, I had a purpose. I was going to recover what was rightfully mine, but not in the way Angela expected. The next morning, I dressed carefully in my wine-colored dress, the one Robert always said made me look elegant. A little makeup, hair neatly done. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I hadn't recognized in a long time, strong, determined, and ready. Mr. Peterson's office was downtown, an elegant space with marble floors and large windows. He greeted me warmly, but when I showed him the documents, his expression changed to one of surprise. "Mrs. Brooks, this is more than I imagined. Robert was brilliant. According to these papers, you are the owner of—" "I know, Mr. Peterson. I've reviewed them. What I need now is legal guidance. How can I proceed?" He confirmed that all documents were legitimate. I was the rightful owner of all the properties. The beach house sale had been illegal. Angela had no right to sell it. We could take legal action for fraud, but I shook my head. "No, Mr. Peterson. I want to handle this differently, secretly. For now, I want no one to know I'm behind it. Can you help me?" He looked intrigued, but nodded. "Of course. What exactly do you want?" "I want the beach house recovered discreetly, the fraudulent sale nullified. I want full control of all my properties, especially the building where my daughter lives." "It's possible. It will take a few weeks, but we can do it. And I want no one to know I'm behind it, at least for now." As I left his office, I felt awake in a way I hadn't in years. The city moved around me, people rushing through their lives, unaware that mine had changed completely. I had a plan. The following weeks were strange and exhilarating. Outwardly, I remained the poor, abandoned widow. In secret, I was orchestrating the recovery of my fortune. Mr. Peterson worked efficiently, calling with updates every few days. I stayed in my house, my sanctuary, even as neighbors pitied me. Aurora, my lifelong friend, came by one afternoon. "Antonia, is it true Angela left you all alone?" "Yes, Aurora. They went to Europe for business." "How will you manage?" I smiled gently. "I'll be fine, Aurora. Thank you for your concern." They all assumed I was powerless. They didn't know I was far from it. Makeup. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. Gone was the grief-stricken widow. In her place stood someone calm, collected, and ready to act. Mr. Peterson's office was downtown, an elegant building with marble floors and large windows. He greeted me warmly, but as soon as I laid the documents on his desk, his expression shifted from cordiality to astonishment. "Mrs. Brooks, this is far more than I imagined." Robert was incredibly shrewd. "According to these papers, you're the sole owner of all these properties." "I know, Mr. Peterson," I said, keeping my voice steady. "What I need from you is guidance. I want to regain full control, but quietly, without Angela or anyone else knowing. Can you help me?" He raised an eyebrow but nodded. "Legally, it's entirely possible. We can nullify the sale of the beach house, regain control of the apartment building, and ensure all your assets are secure. But it will take some time and careful handling." "That's exactly what I want," I replied. "No one should suspect a thing until I'm ready." Over the next few weeks, a strange and exhilarating double life began. Outwardly, I remained the vulnerable widow, quietly underestimated by everyone. In secret, I was orchestrating the return of my fortune. Mr. Peterson worked efficiently, updating me with each small victory. Everything proceeding exactly as planned. During that time, life outside my house continued as usual. Neighbors offered sympathetic smiles and kind words, oblivious to the quiet storm brewing behind my closed doors. Aurora, my lifelong friend, visited one afternoon, worry etched on her face. "Antonia, dear, I heard Angela left you all alone. Are you managing?" I smiled, a small knowing smile. "Don't worry, Aurora, I'll be just fine. Thank you for caring." Yes, they all assumed I was powerless. They had no idea that behind my calm demeanor, I was carefully reclaiming everything that was rightfully mine. And soon, Angela would learn that her mother was far stronger than she had ever imagined. I added a little makeup, then looked in the mirror. And for the first time in a long while, I recognized the woman staring back at me. She wasn't broken. She wasn't weak. She was strong. Mr. Peterson's office was downtown, inside an old but elegant building with marble floors and tall windows. He welcomed me with a warm smile, but the moment I laid the documents on his desk, his expression changed completely. "Mrs. Brooks," he said slowly, "this is far more than I expected." Robert was a very intelligent man. "According to these papers, you are the legal owner of—" "I know," I interrupted gently. "I've already gone through everything. What I need to understand now is what I can do, legally." Mr. Peterson explained that all the documents were valid. Everything was properly registered. I was, without question, the rightful owner of every property listed. He also confirmed what I had already suspected. The sale of the beach house was illegal. Angela had no authority to sell it. "We can recover the house immediately," he said. "And we can also pursue legal action against your daughter for fraud." "No," I replied calmly. "I don't want to take legal action. I want to handle this differently, quietly. I want everything to remain secret for now. Can you help me?" He studied me for a moment, clearly surprised, then nodded. "Of course. You're my client. What would you like me to do?" "I want you to discreetly reclaim the beach house. Do whatever is necessary to cancel the fraudulent sale. And I want full legal control over all my properties, especially the apartment building where my daughter lives." He nodded again. "It will take a few weeks, but it's absolutely possible." "Good," I said. "And one more thing, Mr. Peterson. I don't want anyone to know I'm behind this. Not yet." When I left his office, it felt like waking up from a very long sleep. I walked through the downtown streets, watching people hurry past, living their ordinary lives. But for me, nothing was ordinary anymore. Everything had changed. The buildings, the streets, the daily bustle, it all went on as normal. But for me, nothing was normal anymore. I had a plan. The next few weeks were the strangest of my life. Officially, I was a poor widow, abandoned by my own daughter. But in secret, I was a wealthy woman quietly orchestrating the recovery of my assets. Mr. Peterson worked efficiently, calling every few days with updates on the legal proceedings. I stayed in my house. It was mine, after all, even though Angela probably expected me to shrink into a single, empty room. Every morning, I sat at the same table where Robert and I had shared so many years of breakfast, then went for a walk through the neighborhood. Neighbors greeted me with that familiar mix of pity and curiosity reserved for recent widows. Aurora, my lifelong neighbor, approached me one afternoon while I watered the plants. "Antonia, dear, is it true that Angela went to Europe and left you all alone?" "Yes, Aurora," I said calmly. "They went with Edward. They have business plans." "And how are you going to manage?" she asked. "We all know Robert didn't leave much money." If only she knew. "I'll be fine, Aurora," I said with a smile. "Do you need anything? I can bring you some food, help with groceries." "You're very kind, but I'm fine, really," she replied, giving me that same look I had seen after the funeral, compassion mixed with a little relief that it wasn't her tragedy. "Well, you know where to find me if you need anything." These conversations repeated endlessly. The butcher, the baker, the woman at the corner store. Everyone spoke in that soft, cautious tone they use for the unfortunate. I nodded, smiled, and played the part perfectly, while quietly knowing that behind the veil of widowhood, I held the power of a fortune. And thanked them for their concern. But inside, a part of me savored this performance. It was intoxicating, living a double life, the widow everyone pitied while I quietly wielded the power of a fortune. One Wednesday morning, Mr. Peterson called. "Mrs. Brooks, I have good news. I was able to nullify the sale of the beach house. The buyers didn't know the sale was fraudulent, so they got their money back without any problems. The house is yours again." "Excellent, Mr. Peterson," I said, my voice steady, though a thrill ran through me. "And the building where Angela lives, that one is more complicated. Technically, you've always been the owner through the company, but we need to make some administrative changes so that you have direct control. That should take another 2 weeks." "Perfect. Keep me informed," I replied, setting the phone down with quiet satisfaction. I sat in the kitchen with my coffee, thinking of Angela. She had been in Europe for 3 weeks, and I hadn't heard a word from her. Not a call, not a message, not even a postcard. To her, I had ceased to exist the moment she secured the money she wanted. But I knew that was about to change. That afternoon, I decided to visit the beach house. I took the same bus route Robert and I had traveled hundreds of times. The house stood there, exactly as I remembered. Small, cream-colored, with a porch overlooking the ocean. The new owners had placed a few potted plants on the steps, but otherwise, everything remained untouched. I sat across the street on the curb and let my eyes take it all in. Memories came rushing back. Summer afternoons with Angela building sandcastles, Robert grilling fish on the barbecue while I prepared salads in the kitchen. Friends, boyfriends, and eventually Edward, all woven into the tapestry of those summers. And now? She had reduced those moments, that lifetime of love and effort, to a simple commercial transaction. An older woman sat beside me on the curb, her gaze distant, lost in thought. Yet beneath that calm exterior, a storm was forming. A quiet, meticulous storm that would soon remind everyone who truly held the cards. Felt a wave of anger and disbelief wash over me. I had trusted her completely, thinking she was helping me navigate the storm of grief. And instead, she had been plotting behind my back. "Mr. Peterson," I said firmly, "I want that truck back. I don't care what it takes, but I want it returned discreetly. I don't want Angela to know I'm taking control. At least not yet." He paused, then nodded. "It will take some maneuvering, but it's possible. We can challenge the power of attorney based on undue influence and your state of mind at the time you signed it. I'll handle it carefully so that it doesn't alert her." I exhaled slowly. Finally, there was a way to reclaim what was rightfully mine without turning it into a spectacle. For the first time since Robert's death, I felt a spark of empowerment. Every carefully hidden document he had left me, every silent investment, now became my weapon. Not for revenge, but for justice and dignity. That night, I sat in the living room with the last rays of sun streaming through the window. I could picture Angela and Edward in Europe, oblivious to the fact that the mother they had tried to discard was quietly regaining control over everything they thought they had taken. I sipped my tea and allowed a small, triumphant smile. The game had begun, and I was finally playing to win. He cleared his throat carefully. "Are you sure about this? It's drastic. Angela and Edward will be furious. They may even try to challenge it legally." I took a deep breath and let the weight of my years settle in. "Yes, Mr. Peterson, I want them out. Not to punish them, but to make them understand that actions have consequences. They treated me like I was disposable. Now they will see that the person they underestimated is in charge." He hesitated for a moment, then said, "Very well, Mrs. Brooks. I'll draft the notice discreetly and handle the delivery. Legally, you're well within your rights. You are the rightful owner, and the power of attorney they used is void." I smiled, a mix of relief and quiet triumph. "Thank you. Make sure it's done professionally. I don't want drama, just justice." Over the next few days, I continued my dual life. By day, the grieving widow who seemed vulnerable. By afternoon, the savvy owner plotting the restoration of my dignity and property. The apartment building where Angela lived was quietly placed under my full control. Tenants and staff were informed of management changes, but the transition was smooth. No one suspected a thing. Finally, the eviction notice was sent. I didn't gloat or celebrate. I simply felt the satisfaction of reclaiming what was rightfully mine. It wasn't about revenge. It was about asserting my worth and taking back my life. As I poured myself a cup of tea that evening, I looked out at the city skyline. For the first time since Robert's death, I felt completely free. I had endured betrayal, deceit, and loss, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. The future was mine to shape, and this time, no one could take it away. Stormy argument before she left. She looks worried, confused, and, frankly, vulnerable. I smiled quietly, savoring the moment. "Good. Keep the notice ready, Mr. Peterson. I want it delivered personally to her apartment, but not immediately. Let her get settled and realize she's truly back in my world." Over the next few hours, I kept busy with small errands, enjoying the calmness of my home and the satisfaction of patience. By late afternoon, I received a discreet call from Mr. Peterson. "She's at the building now. about to enter her apartment. Shall I proceed? Yes, I said, my voice calm, steady, and unshakable. But make it professional, no theatrics. Let the law speak for me. Minutes later, the apartment door opened and Angela stepped in. She expected a quiet return from her European escapade, unaware that the foundation of her life had shifted. When she found the eviction notice on the kitchen table, her eyes widened in disbelief. Her world, the one she thought she controlled, was suddenly under someone else's authority. Angela's shock was silent but intense. She read and reread the notice, realizing that every property she believed she could manipulate now legally belonged to me. The woman she dismissed, the mother she underestimated, had quietly and thoroughly reclaimed control. I arrived shortly after, calmly entering the apartment. Angela looked up, her voice shaky. "Mom, what is this? How? Why?" I smiled gently, but firmly. "This is your home only as long as you respect it, Angela. You treated me like I didn't matter, but I am the owner now. Everything you thought you could take or control is mine. I hope this teaches you that actions have consequences." She was silent, speechless, caught between fear, guilt, and the realization of her own naivety. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply stood tall, radiating the dignity and strength I had spent a lifetime cultivating. That night, I returned to my home, poured a cup of tea, and looked out at the stars. Robert's plan had worked perfectly, but more than that, I had proven to myself that I was stronger, wiser, and fully capable of protecting my life, my dignity, and my legacy. Angela would eventually learn lessons in humility, honesty, and respect, but I would do it on my terms, quietly and powerfully. "Are you absolutely sure you want to do this?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. She chose to erase me from her life. Now she's about to understand how much I truly matter. Mr. Peterson paused. "Do you want the notice sent to her in Europe?" "No," I replied calmly. "Give it to her when she comes back. Something tells me that won't take long." I was right. That very afternoon, my neighbor Aurora rushed over with fresh news, barely catching her breath. "Antonia, have you heard? Edward is in serious trouble with the bank. My brother-in-law works there, and they're investigating loans he took out using the apartment as security. But the apartment isn't even his." I raised my eyebrows. "Really?" "Yes, and it seems Angela had no idea. They say she'll have to return from Europe to clean up the mess." "How unfortunate," I said quietly. Aurora leaned closer. "And there's more. Apparently, Edward lied about the business in Europe. There was no opportunity at all. He just wanted to escape his debts." Everything was falling into place. Angela had trusted the wrong person, sacrificed her relationship with me, and now she was paying the price for that choice. That evening, I sat on my porch with a warm cup of tea, staring up at the stars. Robert used to say that the stars were the souls of people who lived fully, watching over those they loved. If that was true, I knew he was watching. "Thank you," I whispered into the night. "Thank you for protecting me, even now." The next morning, Mr. Peterson called early. "Mrs. Brooks, your daughter arrived back in the country last night." "Is Edward with her?" "No. She came alone. There was a serious argument before she left." She looks shaken. "Go ahead and send the letter," I said. "I'll send it today. She should receive it tomorrow." After I hung up, I stood in my kitchen, feeling both nervous and calm. Weeks of quiet preparation had led to this moment. Angela was about to learn that her mother was not weak, not helpless, and certainly not invisible. Angela arrived at her apartment late Tuesday night. I knew because Aurora appeared the next morning with another update. She came back with just one suitcase, she said. She looked exhausted, pale, like she'd been crying for days. And Antonia, she didn't even have her keys. The doorman had to call the superintendent to let her in. That told me everything. Edward had the keys, and he wasn't coming back. Later that afternoon, Mr. Peterson called again. "The notice has been delivered. She received it personally." "Good," I said. "How much time does she have?" 30 days, as required by law." He hesitated. "Mrs. Brooks, are you certain? She is your daughter." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. My daughter sold my home and my memories without asking. She removed me from my own life with a single phone call. This is not cruelty. This is accountability. "I understand," he said quietly. "I just wanted to be sure." And I was. "I've thought about it carefully, Mr. Peterson. Every part of it." That night, sleep wouldn't come. I lay awake, imagining Angela opening the letter. First the confusion, then disbelief, then fear. She would probably assume it was some kind of mistake, maybe even a scam. But the moment she tried to confirm it, she would realize the truth. Everything was legal. Everything was real. The next morning, right at 8 o'clock, my phone rang. It felt as though she had been waiting for permission to call. It was Angela. Her voice was shaky and rushed. Mom, I need to talk to you right now." "Good morning, sweetheart," I said calmly. "How is Europe?" "I don't have time for that," she snapped, panic creeping into her voice. "I got a letter yesterday. It says I have to move out of my apartment in 30 days. That can't be right, can it? Do you know anything about this?" "An eviction notice?" I replied, keeping my tone light. "How odd. Who sent it?" "It's from a company I've never heard of. Hold on. It's called Robert Investments, Inc. Does that mean anything to you?" I almost smiled. Robert had used his own name. Even from beyond, he had left his signature. "No, honey," I said gently. "I've never heard of it. Are you sure the letter is real?" "That's what I'm trying to figure out," she said, her voice breaking. "Mom, everything is falling apart. Edward left me in Europe. He ran off with another woman. I came home to this. I don't understand what's happening." There it was. The truth at last. Edward hadn't disappeared by accident. He had left when the money dried up and the problems caught up with him. "I'm so sorry, Angela," I said softly. "Where are you right now?" "I'm in the apartment," she replied. "At least for now." "Mom, can I come see you? I really need to talk. I don't have anyone else." The irony almost took my breath away. The woman who had erased me from her life with a 2-minute phone call now needed me. The mother she had treated as disposable was suddenly her last safe place. I paused before answering, and for the first time, I realized something important. This conversation would not happen on her terms anymore. The moment she realized the man she chose over me was gone, she suddenly remembered she still had a mother. "Of course, sweetheart," I said gently. "Come over whenever you like." "I'm on my way," she replied. After the call ended, I stood in front of the mirror. This meeting mattered. I chose a simple gray dress, tied my hair back neatly, and practiced the look she expected: concerned, tired, and quietly broken. When Angela walked through my door, she needed to see the mother she believed she had left behind. She arrived about an hour later. When I opened the door, I barely recognized her. She looked thin, exhausted, and worn down. Dark circles framed her eyes. Her clothes, once so polished, were wrinkled and careless. She had clearly been crying. "Mom," she said softly. For a second, I thought she might hug me, but she hesitated, as if the memory of how she had treated me stopped her. "Come in, honey," I said. "Would you like some coffee?" "Yes, please." We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where my life had quietly changed weeks earlier. Angela looked small in that chair, just like when she was a little girl coming home with a problem she didn't know how to solve. "I'm so sorry," she said at last. The way I left. The things I said. I treated you terribly. It's in the past, I replied calmly. No, it's not, she said, her voice breaking. I hurt you. And now I have no one. What happened with Edward? I asked. He left me, she said through tears. With a 25-year-old waitress in Paris, there was never any business opportunity. None of it was real. He just wanted to run away. From the debts, from responsibility. He used the money from selling your house to pay for his escape. All those debts? I asked quietly. Yes, Mom. So many. I found out he'd been taking out loans for years. He used the apartment as security. She paused, swallowing hard. But now I know. It was never really his to use. So, I'm not even the owner of the apartment? She asked, confused and shaken. How is that possible? This was my opening. I'm not sure, sweetheart, I said carefully. Property laws can be very complicated. She wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. The banks are coming after me now. They say that because we were married, I'm responsible for Edward's debts. And then there's this eviction notice on top of everything. Mom, I don't know what to do. Her voice broke. I don't have money. I don't have a job. I don't even have a place to live. She started to cry. Real tears, the kind that come from true fear and desperation. For a brief moment, my heart softened. Every instinct in me wanted to pull her close, to promise her that everything would be fine. But then I remembered her voice on the phone that day. Cold, distant. The way she erased me without hesitation. Have you spoken to a lawyer about the notice? I asked gently. I can't afford a lawyer, she replied. We spent everything in Europe, and Edward took what little was left when he ran away. I nodded slowly. So, what are you planning to do now? She hesitated, then looked up at me with pleading eyes. I was hoping. Maybe I could stay here for a while, just until I find a job and save enough for a small place. There it was. After selling my home, after throwing me away, after treating me like I didn't matter. She wanted me to save her. Of course, sweetheart, I said softly. This will always be your home. Her eyes widened in surprise. She clearly hadn't expected it to be that easy. Really, Mom? After everything? You're my daughter, I said calmly. That doesn't change. She stood up and hugged me then, a tight, desperate hug, the kind someone gives when they feel like they're sinking. I held her back, steady and quiet. And as I did, I knew something she didn't. She was safe for now, but the lesson had only just begun. I hugged her back, but it wasn't the same embrace as before. The love was still there, but now it was measured, thoughtful, careful. Thank you, Mom, she said softly. I promise I'll find a job soon. I won't be a burden. Don't worry about that right now, I replied. Rest first. Clear your head. We'll talk about your options later. Angela left that afternoon to collect a few things from her apartment. I stayed behind at the kitchen table, quietly reflecting on how smoothly everything had unfolded. She had come exactly as I expected, exhausted, scared, and out of choices. And most importantly, she suspected nothing. To her, I was still the helpless mother she had left behind. But this was only the beginning. Letting her move back in gave me the perfect position. I would allow her to feel safe again, to believe she had found shelter and forgiveness. And when the time was right, I would show her the difference between choosing to live without money and being forced to live without it. That evening, I called Mr. Peterson. I need one more thing from you, I said. Of course, Mrs. Brooks. What do you need? I want a full investigation into Edward's debts. I need to know exactly who he owes, how much, and what legal steps can be taken to protect my daughter from his financial mess. That will take some time, he replied, but it can be done. Good. And I want complete discretion. No one can know I'm involved. You have my word, he said. May I ask what your end goal is? My goal is simple, I answered calmly. I want to save my daughter. But before I do, she needs to understand what it truly feels like to lose everything. After I hung up, I poured myself a glass of the wine Robert had been saving for special moments. It had been a long time since I allowed myself that small comfort. I raised the glass quietly, to clarity, to strength, and to the lesson that was finally about to be learned. It was a special occasion, the kind Robert would have saved his best wine for. The game had begun, and for the first time in months, all the good cards were in my hand. Angela moved back into my house the next day. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a cardboard box, the remnants of her former life. I watched her unpack in her old room, the same one she had slept in during her teenage years, and I could see the humiliation etched into every movement. From a luxury condo to her childhood bedroom, how the mighty had fallen. Mom, I found this in the apartment, she said, holding up a manila envelope. It was among Edward's things. It has your name on it, another one of Robert's envelopes. My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my composure. My name? How strange. She handed it to me. Indeed, my name was written in Robert's familiar handwriting, but this envelope was smaller, newer, different from the one I had found in my dresser. Perhaps Edward had stumbled across it among Dad's things after his death and simply forgotten to give it to me. Do you think I should open it? Angela asked, curiosity mixed with caution. I opened the envelope in front of her. Inside was a short letter and a small key. The letter read, Antonia, if you are reading this after having received the main envelope, it means our daughter is going through a difficult time. This key opens a safety deposit box at the Central Bank downtown, branch number 247. There is something there that can help you help her, but use it wisely. With eternal love, Robert. Angela leaned over my shoulder, reading silently. A safety deposit box? Dad had a safety deposit box? I had no idea. I didn't either, I lied smoothly. Your father never told me about it. Do you think we should go see what's inside? I hesitated, considering my next move carefully. I don't know, honey. Maybe it's better to leave things as they are for now. But Mom, maybe there's something important in there. Documents or something valuable that could help us. Angela said, her voice full of hope and worry. She was desperately holding on to any chance of a solution, and I decided to let her believe in that hope a little longer before I showed her the full reality. Okay, I said after a deliberate pause. We can go tomorrow. That night, Angela and I had dinner together for the first time in months. She had cooked, trying to help, but the food carried the weight of guilt and worry. As we ate, she shared more about what had happened in Europe, and each story was worse than the last. Edward lied about everything, Mom, she said. Not just the business, but the debts too. I thought he only owed a little money, but it turns out it's over $100,000. And the worst part, he used my name for some loans without me knowing. How is that even possible? I asked. He forged my signature, she said quietly. When we married, I gave him documents to manage our joint account. I never imagined he'd use them like this. Do you have any proof you didn't know? I asked. I don't know. It's all so complicated. The banks say that since we were married, I'm responsible for all his debts anyway. And the divorce? I don't even know where Edward is now. He just disappeared. Phone disconnected. Emails ignored. Nothing. It's like he vanished. Perfect. Edward had run away, just like he always did, leaving Angela to deal with the fallout alone. In a strange way, he had done me a favor. Now my daughter was feeling the same heartbreak I had when he abandoned me, betrayal by someone she had completely trusted. I'm so sorry, honey. I didn't realize it was this bad, I said. Neither did I, Angela replied. Mom, I thought Edward loved me, Angela said, her voice breaking. I thought we were going to build a life together, but it turns out I was just an easy way for him to get money and documents. Tears ran down her cheeks. How could I have been so stupid? How didn't I see who he really was? I wanted to tell her that I had noticed the warning signs from the start, that I had tried to warn her Edward wasn't trustworthy, but I stayed silent. I needed to keep up my role as a caring, supportive mother. Love can make you blind sometimes, honey. Don't blame yourself, I said softly. But Mom, she continued, shaking her head, I didn't just ruin my life. I ruined yours too. I treated you horribly. I took your house, your truck, your things, all for a man who left me at the first chance. Now we're just two women struggling to survive because of me. It's in the past, Angela. We'll be okay, I reassured her. No, it's not okay. We're both in trouble because of my mistakes. You lost everything Dad left you, and I lost my marriage and my future. We're two women trying to survive. If she only knew, I thought. At that very moment, I had more money than she could ever imagine. I owned the building she lived in. I could fix all her problems with a single phone call. But it wasn't time yet. The next day, we went to the bank. Angela was nervous but hopeful. I stayed in character as the confused widow who didn't know much about finances. The bank employee guided us to the safety deposit boxes, checked my ID, and opened box number 247. Inside were jewels, rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings. Some were heirlooms from Robert's family. Others were new to me. A letter explained where each piece came from and its approximate value. Angela gasped. Mom. This must be worth a fortune, Angela said, her eyes wide. You think so? I asked. Yes. Look at this emerald in this pearl necklace. Mom, Dad saved a treasure here. According to Robert's letter, the jewels were worth around $200,000. It was a lot of money, but compared to the rest of my assets, it was just a small part. Like finding a few coins under the sofa when you already have a fortune in the bank. What do we do with this, Mom? She asked. I don't know, honey. They're family memories, I said. But Mom, we could sell some pieces. With this money, you could get your beach house back, and I could pay off some of Edward's debts. There it was again. Angela immediately thinking of solving the problems Edward had caused. She still hadn't learned to pause and think. Are you sure you want to use your father's inheritance to pay Edward's debts? I asked gently. What choice do I have, Mom? If I don't pay something soon, the banks will foreclose on everything. And technically, I don't even own anything. It's all in Edward's name. Think carefully, honey. Once you sell these jewels, you can't get them back, I warned. I know, but what else can I do? I can't get a job with all these legal claims pending. No employer will hire someone with so many problems. We took the jewels home. Angela spread them out across the kitchen table and examined each one, figuring out which to sell and which to keep. It was hard to watch her reduce decades of family history to numbers on a spreadsheet. Mom, I think I can get $180,000 for the jewels, she said one afternoon, counting the bills on the table. It's less than I hoped, but it's enough to pay the most urgent debts, she added. Are you sure you want to do this? I asked. I have no choice. If I don't pay something. Soon, they'll seize everything, Angela said, worry etched on her face. Even this house could be at risk if they prove I have any legal connection to the properties. The situation was almost absurd. She was anxious about losing a house that I actually owned, paying off the debts of a man who had abandoned her, using money from jewels that belonged to the same man who had created the fortune that could save her. And how are you going to decide which debts to pay first? I asked. I spoke with a free financial advisor at the bank, Angela replied. She said to focus on the debts that have real collateral, Those are the ones that could threaten property or lead to immediate foreclosure. In just a few weeks, Angela had changed. The woman who once sold my things without asking was now carefully weighing every financial decision. The hardships had made her responsible, but also more fragile. That night, while she was organizing the debt documents on the kitchen table, my phone rang. It was Mr. Peterson. "Mrs. Brooks, I have a full report on Edward's debts," he said. "It's worse than I thought." "How much worse?" I asked. "He owes over $200,000 to several banks, plus debts to private lenders. Even more concerning, he used falsified documents with your daughter's signature on some of these loans. That makes Angela legally responsible." I felt a chill. "It's complicated. If we can prove she didn't know, we might be able to remove some of the debts. But it will be long and expensive." "How expensive?" I asked cautiously. "For a good lawyer specializing in these cases? Around $50,000, and there's no guarantee of success," he explained. "And if she just pays the debts?" I asked. "If she has the money, that would be the fastest solution," he said. "But I doubt she has access to that kind of cash." "Peterson, I want you to prepare all the necessary documents to get my daughter out of these debts," I said. "But don't tell her anything yet. You'll be paid, Mrs. Brooks. I'll do whatever it takes to protect her, but this has to be handled very carefully." After hanging up, I found Angela in the living room, staring at the jewels with a sad, distant look. She seemed lost, like a child who had broken a favorite toy and didn't know how to fix it. "What are you thinking about, honey?" I asked gently. "About Dad," she whispered. "About how disappointed he would be if he saw what I did with my life." "Your father loved you very much, Angela. He would understand," I said softly. "No, Mom," she said, shaking her head. "He taught me to be responsible, to value family, not to be selfish. And I did the exact opposite. I abandoned my mother for a man who lied to me. I sold my family's memories for money. I ruined everything he built." For the first time since her return, I heard real regret in her voice. It wasn't just about regretting the consequences. She genuinely understood that she had done something wrong. "People make mistakes, honey," I told her. "The important thing is to learn from them." "But how do I learn from this, Mom?" she asked, tears welling in her eyes. "How do I fix the damage I've done?" That was the question I had been waiting for. Angela was finally ready to face the truth about her actions, but it wasn't time to reveal my final move yet. First, she had to hit rock bottom completely. Over the next few days, Angela decided to sell most of the jewels, keeping only the engagement ring Robert had given me and a small necklace that belonged to her grandmother. I watched quietly as she prepared, researching prices, planning visits to jewelry stores, and practicing how to negotiate. If you want, I can rewrite the next part where she starts selling the jewels and slowly realizes the weight of her choices, keeping it emotionally tense and natural for a voiceover. This is the part where her transformation really starts to show. Do you want me to do that next? It was hard to watch Angela reduce decades of family history to simple transactions, but it was necessary for her to understand the weight of her choices. "Mom, I got $180,000 for the jewels," she said one afternoon, counting the bills on the kitchen table. "It's less than I expected, but it's enough to pay the most urgent debts." "Are you sure you want to do this?" I asked. "I have no choice," she said. "If I don't pay something soon, they'll foreclose on everything. Even this house could be at risk if they prove I have a legal connection to the properties." The situation was almost ironic. Angela worried about losing a house that I actually owned, paying the debts of a man who had abandoned her, with money from jewels that belonged to the same man who had created the fortune that could save her. "And how are you going to decide which debts to pay first?" I asked. "I spoke with a free financial advisor at the bank," Angela explained. "She said to focus on the debts with real collateral. Those are the ones that can affect property or lead to immediate foreclosure. In just a few weeks, she had grown so much. The woman who once sold my things without asking was now carefully analyzing every financial decision. The hardships had made her responsible, but also more fragile. That night, as she organized the debt documents on the table, my phone rang. It was Mr. Peterson. "Mrs. Brooks, I have important news. We managed to locate Edward." "Where is he?" I asked. "In Paris," he replied, "just as your daughter suspected. But here's the interesting part. He's trying to get French residency through a fake marriage with the young woman your daughter mentioned." "A fake marriage?" I repeated, stunned. "Yes," Mr. Peterson said. "Apparently, the girl needs papers. And he needs a way to stay in Europe without being deported. But the most important part is this. We found evidence that he deliberately falsified your daughter's documents to flee the country. That means Angela can get out of the debts." "With this evidence, yes," Mr. Peterson confirmed. "We can prove fraud and coercion. Your daughter won't have to pay a cent for what Edward did behind her back." It was perfect. I could legally free Angela from all her debts without her ever knowing I had the means to do it myself. "Mr. Peterson, start the legal process immediately," I said, "but don't tell my daughter anything yet. I want it fully resolved before she knows. I don't want to give her false hope." "Understood," he said. "It will take about 3 weeks. Maybe a month." "Perfect," I replied. After hanging up, Angela looked at me with curiosity. "Who is that, Mom?" "Oh, just someone asking about Mrs. Davis, our neighbor on the corner. She had the wrong number," I lied smoothly. Every day, lying became easier. I was the poor, abandoned mother Angela believed in, but behind the scenes, I was a wealthy woman quietly orchestrating her salvation and teaching her lessons she needed to learn. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Angela wrestle with decisions she had never faced before. Stretching money for food, negotiating with creditors, and looking for a job with a ruined credit history. It was harsh, but it was necessary. "Mom, I went to 3 job interviews today," she told me one evening, her feet swollen, her face tired. 2 said they can't hire me because of my legal problems. The 3rd offered a part-time night job cleaning offices. "Are you going to take it?" I asked. "I have no choice," she said. "It pays very little, but it's something." "Little, but it's better than nothing," Angela said. "And I can work at night, so I can keep looking for something better during the day." Seeing my daughter, who had lived a comfortable life for over 40 years, preparing to clean offices at night broke my heart. But at the same time, it filled me with pride. She was finally facing reality and taking responsibility, without expecting anyone else to fix her problems. "Are you sure you can handle so much physical work?" I asked. "I'll have to learn," she said. "I can't keep being a burden to you, Mom. It's bad enough that you're letting me live here for free." "This is your home, Angela," I reminded her. "No, Mom. This is your home, and I'm here because of your generosity, but I'm not going to take advantage of it forever." One night, while Angela was on her first cleaning shift, Aurora came to visit. She sat with me in the kitchen, sipping tea and looking at the family photos on the walls. "Antonia, I have to ask you something," Aurora said. "Did you know Angela was going to come back in these conditions?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "When she left, she seemed so sure of herself, so arrogant. She talked about the amazing life she was going to have in Europe, about how successful Edward was. And now she's back, completely broken, working a cleaning job, living with you again." "Life takes many turns, Aurora," I said. "Yes, but there's something else. I've been watching Angela these days and she looks different, not just sad, but humble, as if she's learned something important." Aurora, always perceptive, nodded. "What do you think she's learned?" "I think she's learned the value of the things she took for granted, like having a mother who loves her unconditionally." Maybe, Aurora said thoughtfully. Can I tell you something? I asked. When Angela left and treated you so badly, many of us thought I would never forgive her. But here I am, taking care of her again, giving her a second chance. She has nowhere else to go. She's my daughter, Aurora, I said. Yes, but not every mother would do what you're doing, especially after being treated the way you were treated, Aurora replied. If only Aurora knew the full truth, that I had the power to solve all of Angela's problems, but I was letting her struggle a little longer so she would fully learn her lesson. Do you think I'm doing the right thing? I asked. I think you're doing what a good mother would do, Aurora said. But Angela also needs to understand what she lost when she abandoned you. What do you mean? I asked. She needs to value you not just as the mother who rescues her when she's in trouble, but as the strong woman who built a stable life for 45 years. She needs to respect you, not just need you. Aurora had hit the nail on the head. That was the whole point of my plan. I didn't want Angela to come back out of desperation. I wanted her to come back out of genuine respect and mature love. And how do you think that can happen? I asked. I think it's already happening, Aurora said. I've seen her these past few days, Antonia. The way she talks to you now is completely different. She's no longer the daughter who gives orders or treats you like a burden. She's a grown woman who genuinely appreciates having a mother like you. That night, when Angela returned from her job, I noticed something in her posture, a quiet dignity. She was tired, but those few dollars she had earned with her own effort meant something to her. How was your first day? I asked. Hard, she admitted. But not as bad as I thought. The other ladies there helped me a lot. One of them, Mrs. Johnson, taught me some tricks to clean more efficiently. Mrs. Johnson? I asked. Yes. She's 60 years old and has been cleaning offices for 20 years. She told me she started after her husband left her with 3 small children. Children. She says it's not the job she dreamed of, but it gave her independence and dignity. She sounds like a wise woman. She is. And she said something that really made me think. She told me there are 2 types of people who end up doing this job. Those who never had opportunities, and those who ruined the opportunities they did have. Then she asked me which group I was in. And what did you tell her? I asked. I told her the truth. I had every opportunity, a loving family, a stable home, an inheritance, and I ruined it all by following a worthless man. What did she say? She laughed and said, Well, honey, at least you know exactly why you're here. That already puts you 1 step ahead of most people. Angela poured herself a glass of water and sat down with me at the table. Mom, I want you to know something. These past few weeks have been the hardest of my life, but also the most important. Why? I asked. Because I finally understand what really matters. It's not money. It's not living in the most luxurious apartment. It's not impressing people. It's having people who genuinely love you, who are there when everything falls apart. Angela, no, let me finish, she continued, voice trembling. You have every right to hate me for what I did. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I took everything Dad left you. I treated you like a nuisance. And now I'm here again, expecting you to forgive me and take care of me. I already forgave you, honey, but I haven't forgiven myself, and I won't until I prove that I've truly changed, that I've learned from my mistakes. The next morning, Mr. Peterson called. Mrs. Brooks, I have excellent news. The legal process is almost complete. We can get your daughter out of all of Edward's debts. It was time. After weeks of struggle, lessons, and hard-earned humility, Angela's journey toward redemption was finally about to be rewarded. If you want, I can rewrite the final section where Angela learns about being free of the debts, and the story reaches its emotional resolution, keeping it heartfelt, natural, and voiceover ready. Do you want me to do that next? After weeks of watching Angela struggle, work, and reflect on her mistakes, the moment had finally come to show her she had never been alone, that someone had quietly been looking out for her all along. Mr. Peterson, I want you to organize a meeting, I said. It's time for my daughter to know the whole truth. He arranged the meeting for Friday morning at his office. I told Angela I had made an appointment with a lawyer who could help with her legal problems without going into details. She agreed to come, though she was worried about the cost. Mom, I don't have money to pay a lawyer, she said. I barely have enough for basic expenses. Don't worry about that now, honey. Let's just hear what he has to say. We arrived at Mr. Peterson's office on time. Angela wore her best clothes, which now looked a little loose on her thinner frame. She was nervous, fidgeting with her hands, bracing for yet another piece of bad news. Mr. Peterson greeted us with his usual professional smile. Mrs. Brooks, Miss Brooks, thank you for coming. Thank you for seeing us, Angela replied, her voice hesitant. Although I should warn you, my financial situation is very complicated, and I probably can't afford high fees. That's exactly what we're going to talk about, Mr. Peterson said, exchanging a glance with me. But first, I need you to review these documents. He handed Angela a thick folder. She opened it, her eyes scanning the pages, and her expression shifted from confusion to surprise. I don't understand, she whispered. These documents. They say Edward forged my signature, that there's evidence of fraud, that I'm not responsible for the debts. That's right, Mr. Peterson said. We've been investigating your case for weeks. The past few weeks. We found enough evidence to prove that you were a victim of identity fraud, Mr. Peterson said. But how is that possible? Angela asked, stunned. Who paid for this investigation? I don't have money for any of this. Mr. Peterson turned to look at me. It was my moment. Angela, there's something I need to tell you, I said quietly. What is it, Mom? I took a deep breath. After weeks of pretending, it was finally time to tell her the truth. Your father left me more than you ever knew, I said. Much more. What do you mean? Angela asked, turning to Mr. Peterson. Show her the other documents, I said. Mr. Peterson pulled out a second folder and handed it to her. Inside were property deeds, bank statements, investment records, everything Robert had quietly built over the years. Angela read in silence. Her face changed again and again. Confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally, understanding. Mom, she whispered, this says you own the building where I lived. Yes. And these other properties, bank accounts, investments? Yes. Angela swallowed hard. That means when I sold the beach house, it was never mine to sell. The sale was illegal. I already got it back, I said calmly. She stared at the papers, trying to take it all in. How long have you known? She asked. Since the day you called me from the doctor's office. So you knew all this when I came back from Europe asking for help? Yes. And you knew you could fix everything while you watched me cry every night? Yes. A long, heavy silence filled the room. Angela slowly closed the folders and looked straight into my eyes. Why, Mom? She asked quietly. Why did you let me suffer when you could have helped me? That was the question I had been waiting for. Because you needed to learn something, I said gently. Something you couldn't learn any other way. What? She asked. You needed to learn the value of the things you had lost, the value of family, of respect, of responsibility. When you abandoned me, it wasn't just money you took from me. It was dignity. It was love. It was trust. Angela started to cry, but these weren't the tears of self-pity she had shed over the past weeks. These were tears of understanding. I abandoned you when you needed me most. Yes, I treated you terribly. Yes, she whispered. And you saved me anyway? I said. Yes, she admitted. But not in the way I expected. I didn't save you by giving you money so you could keep making the same mistakes. I saved you by letting you hit rock bottom, so you could learn to save yourself. Mr. Peterson spoke quietly from across the room. Miss Brooks, your mother has covered all legal expenses to free you from Edward's debts. She has also recovered all the properties that were sold fraudulently. You are completely free of any legal problems. And the cleaning job I got? I can quit now if I want? Angela asked. I hope you don't, I said. Why? She asked. Because that job is teaching you something you never learned when life was easy. It's teaching you the value of your own effort, the dignity of honest work, and the importance of valuing every dollar you earn. Angela wiped her tears and looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't the look of a daughter who needs her mother. It was the look of a grown woman who respects another woman. Do you forgive me, Mom? I forgave you a long time ago, honey. The real question is, can you forgive yourself? I don't know if I can. I did unforgivable things. People make mistakes, Angela. What matters is what we do after we recognize them. Mr. Peterson stepped out, leaving us alone for a few minutes. Angela and I sat quietly, letting the weight of everything sink in. Mom, she said softly, I want you to know something. Even if you didn't have all this money, even if you really were the poor widow I thought you were, I would have learned the same lesson. Angela said softly. What lesson? I asked. That there's nothing more valuable than having someone who loves you unconditionally. During these past few weeks, the only thing that kept me sane was knowing I had a home with you. That no matter how much I had ruined my life, you were still my mother. That will never change, Angela, I said. I know. But I also know I can never take that love for granted again. I have to earn it every day, with respect, with gratitude, with actions, not just words. We left Mr. Peterson's office with a completely new relationship. We weren't just mother and daughter connected by blood or habit anymore. We were two grown women who had chosen each other after going through the toughest test imaginable. The following weeks were about rebuilding, but not in the way Angela had expected. Even though she now knew I had the resources to solve all her problems, she decided to keep her night cleaning job. Mom, I need to finish what I started, she said one afternoon as she prepared for work. I can't just go back to a comfortable life as if nothing happened. Are you sure? You don't have to punish yourself forever. It's not a punishment, she replied. It's a way to remember who I was, and who I want to be now. I watched her put on her work uniform, something I never would have imagined a few months ago when she lived in the luxury condo with Edward. But there was something different in the way she carried herself. No longer broken and defeated, but a woman who had found dignity in honest work. That afternoon, Aurora came to visit, as she had every few days since Angela returned. Antonia, she said quietly, there are some strange rumors going around the neighborhood, Aurora said. What kind of rumors? I asked. People are saying you're not as poor as we all thought. Someone saw Angela leaving a very elegant lawyer's office downtown. Then they saw her paying off debts at the bank. They're also saying you got your beach house back, and that you somehow solved all of Angela's legal problems. That kind of thing costs money, Antonia. Aurora knew me too well to let it go. What do you want to know exactly? I asked. I want to know if my friend of 40 years has been lying to me. I poured myself a cup of tea and sat across from her. It was time to be honest with someone else. Robert left me more than anyone ever knew, I said quietly. How much more? Enough that Angela and I will never have to worry about money again. Aurora fell silent, taking it all in. And why did you pretend to be poor all these months? she finally asked. Because I needed Angela to learn something she couldn't learn any other way. I told her everything. The cruel phone call, my decision to stay silent, the weeks of watching Angela struggle, and the final truth revealed in Mr. Peterson's office. Aurora shook her head slowly. Antonia, that's both brilliant and terrible at the same time. Terrible? I asked. Yes, because you let your own daughter suffer when you could have helped her right away, she said. But also brilliant, because I understand why you did it. You do? Yes. Angela needed to learn the value of what she lost. If you had simply given her money, she would have learned that someone would always rescue her from the consequences of her choices. Exactly, I said. But Antonia, Aurora asked softly, didn't it hurt you to see her suffer? Every day, I replied. Every night I saw her crying. Every morning I watched Angela wake up tired and discouraged, getting ready for work. It broke my heart. But I also knew that if I stepped in too soon, she wouldn't fully learn what she needed to learn. And do you think she learned it? Aurora asked. Just look at her, I said. Angela now knows she has access to enough money to live comfortably, yet she chose to keep her job. She knows she could move somewhere nicer, but she decided to stay here with me. She knows she doesn't have to worry about the debts anymore, yet she's using her own savings to help others. She's helping other women? Aurora asked, surprised. Yes. She's become close with the women she works with. She's even using some of the money she earned cleaning offices to help a coworker who's struggling to pay for her son's daycare. Aurora smiled softly. That's not the Angela who went to Europe. No, I said. This Angela understands that money is a tool, not a goal. She knows dignity comes from work and respect, not from possessions. That evening, Angela came home from work and found me reading in the living room. Mom, I need to tell you something, she said. Today, Mrs. Johnson asked if I was the daughter of that wealthy woman from the north side of town. And what did you tell her? I asked. I said yes. I told her you have enough money that I don't actually need to work. And what did she say? She asked why I was still working. Angela smiled. So I told her it's because I need to prove to myself that I can stand on my own. And then? She laughed and said, Honey, that's the difference between being rich and acting rich. Your mom taught you how to be truly rich. Mrs. Johnson sounds very wise, I said. She is, Angela replied. And she helped me understand something important. It's not about how much money you have. It's about how you use it and how you live with it. Angela sat beside me on the sofa and took a deep breath. Mom, I want you to know I've made a decision. I'm going to keep living here. With you, but not as a daughter coming back to her parents. I want to be here as a grown woman who chooses to share her life with her mother. What's the difference? I asked. The difference is, I'm going to pay my share, she said. I'll help with the house, contribute to expenses, and treat this relationship as a partnership between two independent women who love and respect each other. Angela, you don't need to do that, I said softly. Yes, I do. Mom, I want our relationship to be different this time. Before, I was a daughter who took your love and care for granted. Now, I want to be a grown woman who values and nurtures the most important relationship in my life. And your job. I'll keep working, but not cleaning offices forever. I want to go back to school and prepare myself for something meaningful, but step by step, earning every opportunity. Do you know what you want to study? Yes, social work. These past weeks have shown me how many people struggle without support. I want to use what we have to help women going through what I went through. It felt perfect. Angela had learned to value what she had and found a way to turn her experience into something positive. And Edward? I asked. Mr. Peterson said he was arrested in France for the fraudulent marriage and will be deported soon. But honestly, Mom, I don't care anymore. That chapter is over. You don't feel any resentment? No. Edward did me a favor without even knowing it. If he hadn't abandoned and betrayed me, I never would have hit rock bottom. And I never would have learned how strong I can be. If I hadn't hit rock bottom, I never would have truly learned to appreciate what I have. That night, for the first time in months, I went to bed completely at peace. My plan had worked exactly as I hoped. Angela had not only learned the lessons she needed, but had come out stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. I knew Robert would have been proud. 6 months later, life had settled into a new rhythm neither of us could have imagined. Angela finished her social work degree with top grades, and I decided to use some of my resources to start a foundation to help women facing domestic violence and financial hardship. One morning, Angela walked into the kitchen with a letter in her hand. One morning, Angela walked into the kitchen with a letter in her hand. Mom, the university sent this, she said. I've been accepted into the master's program. I start next semester. But I want to pay for it myself, with my own savings. I've been putting money aside from my city job. The pay isn't much, but I've learned to live with the essentials and make every dollar count. Are you sure? We can easily cover it, I said. I know, she replied, but I want to do this on my own. It's part of who I am now. That afternoon, Aurora came to visit, as she had every Friday for the past few months. She had quietly watched our journey and transformation. Pouring herself a second cup of tea, she said, Antonia, I have to admit something. At first, I thought you were too harsh on Angela. But now, I think you're the wisest mother I've ever known. Look at her. Really look at her. And she was right. The Angela we once knew had grown into someone remarkable, strong, capable, and full of heart. The Angela sitting in the living room, studying for her exams, was completely different from the one who had left for Europe months ago. She carried a calmness that came from within, a confidence built on her own accomplishments, not on material things. Did you know I saw Angela at the grocery store yesterday? Aurora said. She was buying vegetables for a family she's helping through her work. She didn't even mention it to me. When I asked why she wasn't using the government funds, she said some things can't be measured in official budgets. That night, Angela and I had dinner on the porch, a small tradition we had built together. It was our time to share the day, plan for the future, and just enjoy each other's company. Mom, I received a very strange letter today, she said, cutting her salad. From whom? Edward? My body stiffened. He wrote to you? From prison in France. Apparently, he was sentenced to 2 years for marriage fraud. He says he regrets everything he did and wants my forgiveness. And how do you feel about it? I asked. Honestly? I feel nothing. No anger, no sadness, no desire for revenge. It's like that part of my life happened decades ago, not months ago. Are you going to write back? No. Not out of hate, but because there's nothing to say. The Angela who married him no longer exists. This Angela has nothing to talk to him about. I was struck by her calm and clarity. The woman sitting across from me had a strength that came from hitting rock bottom and rising on her own. Do you know what this whole experience taught me, Mom? She asked. What? That true love isn't the one that tells you what you want to hear. True love is the one that teaches you what you need to learn, even when it hurts. It's a hard lesson, but it's a necessary one. Edward told me exactly what I wanted to hear. He made me feel special. He convinced me I deserved a life of luxury without effort. You, on the other hand, taught me something far more valuable, that real wealth comes from hard work, respect, and meaningful relationships. That night, after Angela went to her room to study, I stayed on the porch alone, gazing at the stars and thinking about Robert. I had promised him I would take care of our daughter. Now I finally felt I had honored that promise, not by giving her money when she needed it, but by teaching her to take care of herself. Not by solving her problems, but by letting her learn how to solve them on her own. The next day was Sunday, and we planned to visit the beach house for the first time since I had regained it. Angela hadn't wanted to go before, saying she needed time to process everything that had happened. "Are you ready?" I asked as we got into the truck. "I think so," she replied. The drive was quiet but comfortable. When we arrived, Angela paused for a moment, looking at the house where we had spent so many family summers. "It looks exactly the same," she said finally. "Some things don't change, but others do. I am not the same person who sold this house." We went inside together. The house was clean and tidy, just as Robert and I had always kept it. Angela walked through each room, touching the furniture and pausing at the family photos on the walls. "Mom, I want to apologize," she said. "You already apologized, honey." "No," she insisted. "I want to apologize specifically for this house, not just for selling it, but for reducing all our family memories to a commercial transaction." "It's forgiven," I said. "This house holds 40 years of family summers, birthdays, Christmases. Dad built that porch with his own hands. It's more than just a house. It's a lifetime of love and memories. You planted that garden. I learned to swim at that beach. And I turned it all into money to fund the adventure of a worthless man." Angela sat on the sofa where Robert used to read on Sunday mornings. "Do you know what hurts me the most?" she asked. "What?" I said. "That when I sold it, I didn't feel anything. It was just another property. Now, being here again, I can feel Dad in every corner. I can hear his laughter, smell his morning coffee, see his reading glasses on the table. He is here, Angela. He has always been here." "I know," she said softly. "And I also know he's proud of how I handled all of this." We spent the day at the house cooking, cleaning, and fixing small details. It felt like a ritual of reconnection, not just with the house, but with the values it represented. As the sun began to set, we sat on the porch Robert had built, looking at the ocean. "Mom, I have a proposal," Angela said. "What is it?" "I want us to turn this house into a temporary shelter for women leaving situations of domestic violence, a place where they can stay while they rebuild their lives." It was perfect. Robert would have loved that his beach house could help other families. "I think that's a beautiful idea, honey," I said. "We can use some of the foundation's resources to maintain it, and I can oversee the program through my work." "Are you sure you want to turn our family sanctuary into that, Mom?" "The best sanctuaries are the ones that are shared. Dad always said a house isn't truly a home until it opens its doors to people who need love." He was right. Robert had always been generous, welcoming relatives, friends, and neighbors who needed a place to stay. That night, we returned home with a new project and a completely renewed relationship. We were no longer just mother and daughter bound by family. We were partners, ready to build something meaningful together. We were no longer bound by obligation or duty. We were two women who had consciously chosen to build a life together, based on love, respect, and a shared purpose. That night, before falling asleep, I spoke to Robert in silence. "We did it, my love. Our daughter finally understands what truly matters." For the first time since his passing, I felt him answer me. "I always knew you would. You're both stronger than you think." Justice had arrived, not as revenge, but as education. Not as punishment, but as transformation. In the end, we had both gained something far more valuable than money, an authentic, unshakable relationship built on a foundation that no future crisis could destroy. Did you enjoy my story? Which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked this story, You can support me with a super thanks so I can continue bringing more stories like this. Your support means so much. On the screen, you'll see 2 new life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more waiting for you on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I can't wait to see you in the next life story. With love and respect.